He grew up in the heart of Manila, where the streets were loud, the air smelled of fried food and rain-soaked concrete, and dreams often got buried under the noise of traffic. And survival, he had no name that the world knew. No record label, no studio, no plan, just a voice. That voice was his only possession, the one thing he carried through the chaos of every day. In the narrow alleys, where jeepneys honked and children played barefoot, he would sit with an old guitar that had only 4 working strings and sing. He sang to strangers passing by, to people who never looked at him, and sometimes just to himself. Music was his only escape. When the world around him felt heavy, when he had no food or direction, he would close his eyes and sing, as if someone was listening. His voice wasn't trained, but it was raw, cracked with emotion, filled with pain and hope at the same time. He learned songs by hearing them from old radios. In the market, Ed Sheeran, the script and classic love songs that somehow found their way into every Filipino heart. Sometimes people would stop and listen, toss a few coins and smile. Those small moments became his reason to keep going. Every morning before the city fully woke up, he'd find a quiet corner near the plaza, wipe his guitar with a piece of cloth and start to play. The early sun hit his face, and for a few minutes, it felt like the world paused for him. But when the crowd moved on, he went back to being invisible. Nights were colder, lonelier. He slept wherever he could, under a small awning behind an old food cart, sometimes near a church gate. His voice echoed in his head, as if reminding him that he was still alive. Deep down, he believed that one day someone, somewhere would really listen. One evening, while singing Breakeven by the script, something strange happened. A tourist couple stopped and recorded him with their phone. They didn't say much, just smiled, dropped a small bill in his guitar case, and left. He didn't think much of it, but that video, shaky and unplanned, would soon change his entire life. It was uploaded online with the caption, "Street singer with a golden voice." Within days, it started spreading. People shared it across platforms, amazed by the emotion in his singing. Some called him the Filipino Breakeven boy. For the first time in his life, he became more than just a shadow on the street. Weeks passed, and the video caught the attention of a small local TV producer. They tracked him down, gave him new clothes, and asked him to sing live for a segment about street musicians. His hands shook as the cameras pointed at him. But when he started singing, the fear melted away. His voice filled the studio. Quieting everyone, the host smiled. The audience clapped, and for the first time, he saw what it felt like to be seen. The video from that show went viral again, this time reaching international audiences. People from around the world commented, calling him an inspiration, saying his voice felt like pain wrapped in hope. Then one message changed everything. A representative from America's Got Talent reached out, inviting him to audition at first. He thought it was a scam. How could a poor street singer from Manila get an invitation to one of the biggest stages in the world? But after several calls and verifications, he realized it was real. He cried that night, not out of fear, but disbelief. He sold his old guitar and used the money to fix his passport and travel documents. A local organization even helped him with the flight ticket, saying his story represented millions of dreamers. Back home the day he landed in Los Angeles, he was overwhelmed. The lights, the buildings, the unfamiliar cold wind, it all felt like another planet. He walked through the airport holding a small backpack, still unsure if this was really happening. At the hotel, he looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. Clean clothes, brushed hair, yet the same eyes that once looked out from the crowded streets of Manila. The night before his audition, he couldn't sleep. He kept humming Breakeven, the song that had unknowingly changed his life. It wasn't just a song anymore. It was a memory of every corner he had sung on, every face that ignored him, every tear he had hidden when his audition day arrived. He stood backstage among dozens of other contestants, some laughing, some rehearsing, some praying. He didn't know what to expect. When his name was called, he walked onto the stage slowly, clutching a borrowed guitar. The lights were blinding, the crowd massive. And at the center sat Simon Cowell, the man whose face he had seen on TV so many times. For a moment, he froze. Simon looked at him, then smiled faintly and asked, "What's your name and where are you from?" His voice trembled as he replied, "I'm from the Philippines. I sing on the streets back home." The audience went quiet. There was something humble yet powerful in his presence. Simon nodded. "What are you going to sing for us today?" he asked. He took a deep breath and said, "Breakeven by the script." The judges smiled politely. But no one expected what came next. As the first notes filled the air, something shifted in the room. His voice cracked slightly at first, then grew stronger, pouring out, emotion that no microphone could truly contain. Every line felt like it was lived, not just sung. The pain in his words told the story of hunger, loss, and endless hope by the time he reached the chorus. People in the audience were wiping their eyes. Even Simon leaned forward, watching silently, his usual skepticism replaced by something like admiration when the song ended. There was a few seconds of silence before the entire crowd stood up in applause. The cheers echoed through the hall, drowning him in disbelief. He looked around, his hands shaking, tears forming in his eyes. Simon Cowell stood up too, a rare moment that cameras caught perfectly. That Simon said slowly was absolutely incredible. "You have one of the most heartfelt voices I've ever heard on this stage." The other judges nodded, praising his courage and authenticity. He couldn't believe it. A boy who once sang for coins on a dirty street corner now stood under a spotlight that reached millions. The clip of his audition went viral overnight. It was shared across platforms, gathering millions of views within days. Headlines read, "Poor Filipino street singer moves Simon Cowell to tears." He received messages from all over the world, people telling him how his voice gave them strength, how his story inspired them to keep chasing their dreams. He didn't win the entire competition, but it didn't matter. He had already won something far bigger: recognition, respect, and a place in people's hearts. After the show, record labels reached out. Interviews followed, and invitations to perform poured in. But he remained grounded. He often said in interviews, "I'm still that same guy from the streets. I just sing on a bigger corner now." He sent money back home, helped other struggling musicians, and returned to Manila to visit the same spots where he once sang. Children would run up to him, calling him a hero. He would smile, sit down, and play the same song again, reminding himself where it all began in America. His journey continued. He released covers and original songs on his YouTube channel, each carrying the same raw honesty that first caught the world's attention. He never cared about fame. He only cared about truth, the kind that lived inside music. In one interview, Simon Cowell himself mentioned him again, saying, "That boy reminded me why I love doing this show. Talent can come from anywhere," and his performance proved that. Hearing that the singer smiled quietly. He didn't need trophies or titles. He just wanted people to feel something. When he sang, his story became a symbol of hope. Not just for Filipinos, but for anyone who had ever felt invisible. People saw in him the proof that no dream was too big, no background too small. He often spoke about his days on the street, how music gave him strength when life gave him nothing else. "I didn't sing to be famous," he said once. "I sing because I needed to survive. Now I sing to remind others that they can too." Every time he performed, he carried with him the faces of those who once ignored him, the echoes of the city that shaped him, and the belief that the world listens when you sing from the heart. Years later, when he returned to America's Got Talent as a guest performer, the audience greeted him with a standing ovation. Before he even sang, he looked around. The same stage where he had once trembled, and this time he smiled with quiet confidence. He sang a new song, one he had written himself, about never giving up. Simon Cowell, sitting at the judges' table again, nodded along, clearly moved. When the performance ended, Simon said softly, "You've come full circle. You're living proof that real talent can rise from anywhere." The crowd erupted again, and the singer bowed his head, humbled after the show. As cameras flashed and reporters asked questions, he slipped away to a quiet corner backstage. He took out his phone, scrolled to an old photo of himself sitting on a Manila sidewalk with his guitar, and smiled. The lights, the fame, the applause, all of it felt surreal. But what mattered most was the journey, not the destination, he whispered to himself. Still Me, Just a Louder Song. Even today, people continue to find his original street performance video. Online, it still inspires comments from strangers around the world. People saying they cry every time they hear it, that it reminds them to believe again. He never imagined that his cracked, imperfect voice could reach so far. And maybe that was the point. Music at its purest doesn't need perfection. It needs truth. That's what he had always carried. From the streets of Manila to the grandest stage in the world. In the end, his story wasn't just about fame or success. It was about faith, the kind that survives when everything else falls apart. It was about a nameless boy who found his name through song, a street singer who proved that sometimes the smallest voices can create the loudest echoes. And as long as he kept singing, somewhere in the world someone would stop, listen, and believe again. Thanks for watching Untold Hearts. Like, subscribe if you love our stories.